On this episode of the Educational Duct Tape Podcast, we're diving into Google's brand new Gemini for Education rollout. We'll unpack powerful tools like Gemini Canvas, Deep Research, and Custom Gems, and break down what you get for free versus with Pro. And that's not all of the Google news that I share. I also hop up on the soapbox to talk about growth mindset, perseverance, and the learning pit. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Educational Duct Tape Podcast with Jake Miller.
Welcome everyone. So before we get into today's regular content, I want to start with something that feels necessary, even if I can't go into all of the detail that I wish I could. There are decisions being made both in our nation and in my home state of Ohio at the policy level, in budgets and laws that are affecting our schools, our communities, and our students in profound and painful ways. You know, since the beginning of this show, I've done what I call soapbox moments. And honestly, it's kind of silly that I call them soapbox moments because I don't share any strong or controversial opinions in them. And that's kind of where the soapbox term comes from, right? You get up on your soapbox and say something controversial or some strong opinions. Today, though, I really want to have a true soapbox moment about these issues. But I don't feel that it'd be wise for me to speak freely about all of it. But I do want to honor the fact that many of you are feeling the impact. I wish I could give you all hugs right now. Maybe take a moment, take a deep breath, and give yourself a little self-hug. You know, while we're giving out hugs, I'd also like to send a virtual one to everyone impacted by the heartbreaking loss and devastation from the flooding in Texas. So sad, so scary. My heart is with those communities. I know a guy saying these things on a podcast about educational technology doesn't do anything or really mean much, but it feels important not to just rush past these things. I just wanted to point them out. Yeah. Before we get into it, educators, your learning communities, they need you. They're lucky to have you. You have incredibly powerful, positive impacts on your learners. Keep showing up and keep loving on the kiddos in your schools. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me just grab my soapbox from over here. Yeah. There we go. That's perfect. Climb up on there. The first time my wife and I took our kids ice skating, our daughter, who was about 7 at the time, had a very clear vision of how this was going to go. She imagined stepping onto the ice like a tiny Olympic hopeful, smooth glides, graceful twirls, maybe even a little applause from the strangers. Full Disney on Ice energy is what she expected. Then she got handed the rental skates. She looked down, confused. "What is that on the bottom of my skates?" This sweet little girl had no idea ice skates had blades on the bottom. So yeah, her fantasy of effortless movement melted away right there in that rental booth. And on the ice, reality showed up real fast. Wobbles, wide eyes, and long stretches of hugging the wall like it was a safety rail. But she also did something else that day. She skated. Just a little, while holding hands with an older family friend who had more experience. She didn't do it all on her own, and she didn't have to. That day, she stepped into something I've talked about before, conscious incompetence. Before she laced up, she was full of unconscious incompetence. She didn't know what she didn't know. But the moment she realized this wasn't going to go the way she'd imagined, that uncomfortable drop in confidence, that awareness of her ice skating incompetence, that, my friends, is the learning pit. It's the moment we lose our footing, literally in this case, and become fully aware of how far we have to go. It's not fun, but it's where the real learning starts. It's where the real learning happens. Anytime we step into something new, using AI, implementing a new curriculum, trying a new strategy, it's easy to picture ourselves gliding straight into success. We imagine control, confidence, smooth execution. Reality hits pretty quickly, though. If only there was a wall to grab onto. But that doesn't mean we're doing it wrong. It means we're in it. Because growth doesn't come from getting it right the first time. It comes from stepping in, realizing we're not there yet, and choosing to keep going anyway. And sometimes we need a steady hand, like my daughter's friend, someone who's skated this path before who could say, "Here, hold on, I've got you." That might be a colleague, an instructional coach, someone from your virtual PLN. Whoever it is, their hand makes the ice feel less slippery. And here's the thing, we don't just need that kind of modeling from our friends. We are that modeling. Every time we try something new in front of our students or our peers, even when we're unsure, even when we wobble, we're showing what it looks like to take a productive risk, to step into the learning pit. Our students don't learn growth mindset from posters of cats hanging from branches on classroom walls. They learn it when they watch us live it out loud. They learn it when they hear us say, "This is my first time trying this, and I'm not sure how it'll go." And when they hear us say, "Oops, that didn't work right. Let's try that again." You know, John Green, the author, he tells a story in his book, The Anthropocene Reviewed, about a father and a son who painted over a baseball. I'm not sure why, but they put one coat of paint on that baseball. And then they did it again and again. And over the years, actually decades, it became a 2.5 ton, 14-foot circumference monument to persistence. It literally is the world's largest ball of paint. And yes, you can go visit it. Someday I'll be in Alexandria, Indiana. I think that's where it is. And I'll go see it. And when I see it, it won't look like a baseball. But that's how it started. And it grew the same way everything does, with one coat and one more coat and one more coat. So maybe today, or this upcoming school year, isn't about gliding across the rink gracefully. Maybe it's about putting on the skates, stepping into the pit, and adding one honest coat to the work you're doing. And yes, I've now officially mixed about 4 metaphors together. But hey, learning is messy, and so is my brain sometimes. You know, learning is messy because progress, it isn't instant. It's layered. And if we persist, we improve. So for those of you gearing up for the new year, remember, the world's largest paintball started with one layer on a regular old baseball. Becoming a confident skater starts with holding onto the wall or someone's hand. And getting out of the learning pit starts with the courage to step into it in the first place. So grab your skates, pick up your brush, and take that next step, one coat at a time. Before diving into today's EdTech and education news and updates, a quick heads up, if anything in this yields a reaction from you, whether it's a must try, a virtual mind blown emoji, or a not for me, or a I've got a better idea, please share your thoughts. I'm eager to hear your insights. You could post on Bluesky using hashtag #EduDuctTape or leave a voice message at speakpipe.com/EduDuctTape. If you've ever wished you had a superpowered teaching assistant who knew your subject, respected student privacy, and worked right inside your school's existing tech tools, Google reports that they have good news for you. So last week, they announced Gemini for Education, which they say will bring AI into classrooms in a safer, smarter way. Gemini for Education is built on Google Gemini 2.5 Pro, their most advanced multimodal AI model. And it gives schools access to Google's top AI model with privacy protections and admin controls baked in. And here's the kicker, it's included free with Workspace for Education. Now, it's Google, so of course there's also a paid version, which I'll get to later, but everyone gets access to a generous helping of AI features, which includes 4 new features: Gemini Live, Deep Research, Gemini Canvas, and Gems. So, what are those features, you ask? There's Gemini Live, where students and teachers can work with the chatbot in real time. And I don't just mean typing back and forth. With Gemini Live, you can actually have a spoken conversation with Gemini, almost like you're brainstorming out loud with a teaching assistant. Now, I haven't seen what the education version of this looks like, but there's been a Gemini Live app available on iOS and Android for a few months now that gives us a good idea of its capabilities. When you speak to Gemini Live, it adapts to your conversational style. You can ask follow-up questions, you could change topics mid-sentence, or just talk your way through something while it listens and responds. So I mentioned that it's not just a text-based chat, it's voice-based. But that's not all, because what really sets Gemini Live apart, at least on the mobile app, is its ability to bring in context from your environment. You could share your screen, your camera, or upload files, and Gemini will use that as information for your discussion. For example, Google says you can rehearse a presentation and get live real-time coaching from Gemini Live. Ask it for feedback on a math problem or a rough draft of a paper. Snap a picture of a textbook and ask Gemini Live to explain it to you. Share your screen to get help understanding a confusing interface on a software or app. Or upload a doc and have Gemini help you break it down. Most public examples show adults using this on mobile, getting recipe suggestions, analyzing job descriptions, or troubleshooting DIY projects. But in an education setting, you could start to see the potential, right? Giving feedback in the moment, unpacking tricky text, or serving as a low-stress study partner who doesn't mind if you ask or your student asks, "Wait, what does that mean?" 5 times in a row. This could be especially powerful for learners who think out loud, benefit from repetition, or just need help with that one tricky part that they can't quite grasp. Then there's deep research, which honestly might be the most powerful and most complicated feature in this whole rollout. With deep research, Gemini isn't just answering a question. It acts more like a research assistant, one that can browse the web, read through dozens or even hundreds of sources, and synthesize it into a multi-page report within minutes. Now, to be clear, I have not seen the K-12 version yet. Everything I know is based on the version available in Gemini Advanced, which I have not used. I've just researched quite a bit. The process goes like this, though. Gemini first generates a research plan based on your prompt. Think of this like an outline or a roadmap. It lays out what it's going to look for, how it plans to organize the information, and which angles it might explore. You can edit that plan before Gemini gets started, add questions, remove sections, or steer it in a different direction. From there, Gemini starts searching the web, scanning a wide variety of sources. And here's the cool part. It actually shows you where it's looking. You could see a running list of websites it's browsing, including how many it has reviewed so far. So not just one website, not just 2, a bunch, and you see them all. But it doesn't stop at search. Gemini iteratively refines its approach. What does that mean? It reads an article, it processes it, and it uses that new understanding to decide what to search for next, just like you would do if you were adjusting your research strategy mid-project. And then when it's all done, the final product is a comprehensive report, often several pages long, complete with citations and links to the original sources. And once it's done, you're not stuck with a static doc. You could turn that report into an audio overview, like Notebook LM, or export it into Google Gemini Canvas, where you could build interactive materials like quizzes, visuals, study guides, and more. More on Gemini Canvas in a little bit, by the way. But deep research actually reminds me the most of Notebook LM. But there's a twist. While Notebook LM works only from documents you upload, deep research can also autonomously gather new sources from the web. You could still upload your own syllabus or study guide, but it's the search plus synthesis combo that makes this truly next level. And even after the report is complete, that's not the end of the process. Gemini can keep going, answering your follow-up questions, drilling deeper, or revising based on your feedback. And in theory, this is all super duper amazing. In fact, in a demo, a Google product manager used deep research to quickly compile a report on remote work's impact on urban development. He skipped the reading, the sifting, and the analysis, and in the video he said, "I don't know about you, but reading this much stuff would have certainly taken me hours." And yeah, he's right. That's impressive. But here's the thing. He also skipped the learning. He didn't read the articles. He didn't wrestle with the contradictions. He didn't make meaning for himself. He didn't pause or wonder or reflect while he read. He didn't think. And in his job, maybe that was fine for this specific task. Maybe he just needed a quick briefing on one small aspect of a bigger project. But in our classrooms, that kind of shortcut can be dangerous because research, at least for our learners, isn't just about the product, it's about the process. It's about learning about a concept and also learning to ask better questions, follow your curiosity, compare sources, and form your own conclusions. Deep research threatens to do all of that for students if we're not careful. So yeah, it's powerful. And yes, it has a clear benefit for us as teachers, prepping for a unit, gathering resources, or ramping up quickly on a familiar topic. But for students, we'll need to be really intentional about when, how, why, and maybe if we have them use it. When I told you about Gemini's deep research, I mentioned that you can export the report into Gemini Canvas to create quizzes, visuals, study guides, and more. So let's talk about that. Gemini Canvas, not to be confused with the learning management system of the same name, is a collaborative space where you create content alongside Gemini. Think of it as a creative sandbox, more than just a doc or a chat window where you can write, code, prototype, and build with the help of Gemini's most powerful model, Gemini 2.5 Pro. It acts like a design and build layer on top of Gemini. You describe what you want, an infographic, a quiz, a web page, or even a simple app or game, and Gemini builds it while you talk to it, type to it. You can create everything from interactive timelines and study guides to planet simulators and music synthesizers, all in one place. Now, again, I haven't seen the K-12 version yet, but Canvas has been out since spring, and its capabilities are really impressive. As I mentioned before, Canvas works seamlessly with deep research. Once your report is generated in deep research, you can click Create and transform that report into something in Canvas like a quiz or an infographic or a series of quizzes or an audio overview like in Notebook LM or an interactive web page instantly. And then you could share that instructional resource, even those quizzes and those simulators, with your learners. Canvas also supports drafting and refining writing, so you can workshop lessons, expand key sections, adjust tone, and get instant feedback. Upload a study guide, and Canvas can even build a custom quiz from it right there for you for individual review or for you to share right from there with others. And if you're into coding or computer science, Canvas can visualize algorithms, animating complex concepts to make them easier to understand. It's crazy. Bottom line, Canvas has huge potential. Teachers, it sounds like, can quickly build differentiated materials for their learners with it. Students could potentially prototype or code or visualize ideas. Anyone can turn a concept into something interactive with it. It promises to be a powerful new tool in the Google Gemini ecosystem. Then there's Gems, which might be one of the most flexible and honestly fun features in Gemini. And coolest names too, by the way, I dig it. If you're like me, every time you try something new with an AI tool, there's a little back and forth to get it to do what you want. Lots of tweaking, refining, and occasionally just starting over from scratch when you realize the error in your ways until finally you get the AI to do what you want it to do, how you want it to do it. Am I alone on this? I don't think so. So with Gems, you could bake that customization in once and use it again and again. You build a gem by giving it detailed instructions, tone preferences, uploaded files, or even personality traits. That gem becomes a reusable AI assistant trained to do that task your way. Imagine creating gems that write lesson plans in your style, build pre-assessments aligned to your standards, or generate differentiated assignments rooted in UDL because you gave it the guidelines. And then you just come back and use those gems again whenever you need them. If you need some training wheels on what gems might look like, you could start with the pre-made gems like Learning Coach, Writing Editor, Coding Partner, Brainstormer, and Career Guide. They're available in the Gem Manager or in the Gemini sidebar. Speaking of which, did you find a gem there that's close but not quite right? You can copy it and tweak it and then save it to fit your needs and reuse later. So Google shared some standout education examples of using gems, like a lesson planning gem aligned to your curriculum, a translator gem that rewrites content in multiple languages, a math generator gem that builds differentiated problem sets for you, a citation assistant for student research, and an event planning gem to help with ceremonies or planning a PD. You can even upload context into the gem like a syllabus or exemplar and connect apps to it like YouTube or Google Maps. You can even give your gem a tone or a persona to communicate with you with. Want a math tutor who sounds like a pirate? I guess go for it. It'll probably be super excited when you ask him how to calculate the area of a circle. There's a little math joke for you. Did you get that one? So while gems are currently rolling out for users who are 18 or older, I can absolutely imagine student-facing gems like a study buddy or a quiz generator built by teachers and then shared by students. And as far as I could tell, that's okay. The teacher creates the gem because they're 18 or older. The students can then interact with it, just not create their own gems. So think custom chatbots, but with more personality and precision, customized to your exact needs, your standards, your curriculum, your learners. If that reminds you of some of the features in Magic School or School AI and things like that, yeah, it reminds me of that too, but it seems like we do a lot more than that with gems, not just those custom chatbots. And get this, you can now access gems in the sidebar of docs, slides, and sheets. They're there and ready for you, where they act as context-aware assistants for your writing, your brainstorming, and your editing. If you've ever found yourself retyping the same elaborate prompt to AI, wishing AI could just get what you're trying to do, gems might be your new favorite thing because they'll remember it next time. I think Gemini for Education's most important feature might be what it doesn't do. Check this out. No data is human reviewed. Nothing entered is used to train the model. Extra guardrails are included for students under 18. Inappropriate content is flagged, and AI literacy resources endorsed by Connect Safely and FOSI are built into the tool. Also, Gemini supports compliance with COPPA, FERPA, HIPAA, FedRAMP, and more, and has earned the Common Sense Media Privacy Seal. It's available in over 40 languages and 230 plus countries. Admins control access for school accounts, so if you're not ready to turn it on for students, you don't have to. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't used all of these features yet, but I've been impressed with a thoughtful direction. And while I always advise caution with shiny new tools, this one feels like a step forward for schools that want both innovation and safety. So let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Mention me on Bluesky or drop me a voice memo at speakpipe.com/eduducttape. Let's talk about the fine print of Gemini for Education, Google's AI suite made just for schools. Like most things Google nowadays, there's a free version that everybody gets and a pro upgrade. And the big question is, what's the difference? And is the pro version really worth it? So let's start with what you get for free. The free version comes with all Workspace for Education editions, so all schools have access to it, and it actually includes a lot. It comes with gems, where you could build your own custom AI assistant like a lesson planner, a writing coach, a translator, or a study buddy tailored to your tone, your style, and your tasks. It also comes with Gemini Canvas, that creative sandbox for drafting, coding, building quizzes, and designing visuals with AI based on your prompts or your uploaded content. And it comes with Gemini Live, which lets you talk to Gemini out loud, ask follow-up questions, share your screen, upload a doc, and get real-time help. As well as workspace integration, admin controls, and strong data privacy protections, including no data reviewed and no use of your content for training the AI model. That's all fully included with no mention of usage caps on those core tools. That's pretty impressive for a free tool. Now, there are two tools that include usage caps in the free version. First, Gemini 2.5 Pro Access, which is Google's most advanced AI model. It sounds like once you hit your cap, you drop to a lighter weight version, so not Gemini 2.5 Pro, but some other version of Gemini. It's not clear what it is, though. There's also a cap on Deep Research, that tool that creates multi-page cited reports based on web and document sources. So on the free accounts, you can access Deep Research and use it, but there's a cap. I'm assuming it's how many times you could use it per day. We'll find out more on that soon. And there's also a cap on audio overviews, which turns docs into podcast-style audio summaries. Now, that's not a surprise because Notebook LM has been capped to how many you could do per day on the free version since it came out, or at least for months. So yes, the free tier gives you the tools, but with some restrictions on the most powerful features. Still, that's a whole lot of AI for $0. And for many teachers and schools, it may be more than enough to explore and at least get started. Let's be real, though. Google's playing a smart game here. They're not just being generous. Giving this away helps them compete with platforms like ChatGPT. It may create students who continue to use Gemini after graduation, and it just might make schools consider upgrading to Pro. So what does the Gemini Education Upgrade, or Pro, actually add? Well, it gives you expanded limits for deep research and audio overviews. I mentioned that they were capped in the free. Those limits are expanded in the Pro. It gives you support for larger file uploads, so your files can have up to 1,500 pages to be summarized and analyzed. It gives you direct integration in the Gmail and Docs and Slides and Forms and more. I'm assuming you don't get any integration into them from Gemini 2.5 Pro on the free version. We'll see, though. And it gives you full access to Notebook LM with 5 times the Notebook LM limits and extra features in Notebook LM too. So yes, you can get the core Gemini tools for free, but Pro kind of supercharges everything. More access, more integrations, more storage, and more ways to scale if your district is going all in on AI. So is Pro worth the price? Well, that depends on your needs and your admin's budget. Not to mention that it also depends on the fact that I can't even tell you what the price is since Google asks you to call them for a quote. So once you find out the price, then you could determine if it's worth the price or not. But either way, the fact that schools now get meaningful, privacy-respecting AI tools for free is still a big deal. So will your school stick with the free version or upgrade to Pro or turn it all off? Let me know what your school's thinking. Mention me on Bluesky or leave a voice memo at speakpipe.com/eduducttape. When I introduced Gemini for Education, I mentioned admin controls. So let's dig into those for the Google admins out there. So Gemini for Education gives IT admins a surprising amount of power to set guardrails. In the admin console, they could turn Gemini access on or off for everyone or for specific groups. So if you want to test it out with just your high school students or just your staff, that is doable. You don't have to have it on for all. The admin has that control. There's also usage reporting for admins, which shows how many users are actively using Gemini and how often. You might use that to help surface both who your AI all-stars are and the folks who might need more support. It also helps you know if it's worth paying for that Pro version or not. If you see a lot of use, maybe you should be considering it. And here's a little nugget I found while investigating this. It was buried kind of in the fine print. It turns out that each user is capped at 1,000 Gemini uses per month. Now, that's a lot, and so I think it probably isn't a big deal, but they weren't forthcoming about that anywhere in the details. Each user, 1,000 Gemini uses per month. Now, before they hit that limit, they'll get a warning, and then at 1,000, they're going to be cut off until the end of the month. So admins in their console can see which users are nearing that limit, which could help them avoid some frustrated calls from your staff. So interesting to know about that limit and nice that the admins have access to seeing where you're at if you're approaching that. Now, a privacy heads up, another feature that admins have is the use of Google Vault to search Gemini conversations and export results. They can also set their retention policies, just like they always do in Google Vault, for how long those chats stick around. And these guardrails are probably a good thing for keeping students safe and ensuring appropriate use. But I'm going to assume that that means that the adult users, as that includes you, the teachers, should expect that your conversations with the Gemini chatbots can also be retained by your organization. So just like your email or your Google Docs, using these tools through your employer means you're not guaranteed privacy. I think that's kind of obvious that we're not guaranteed that privacy, but I just wanted to make sure it was clear to you that your admin, it seems, does have access to all that information when you're using your school account. More important than how it impacts the teachers, though, I think, is that this helps us assure that students are using these tools appropriately. Overall, I think it's nice to know that Gemini for Education comes with oversight from the admins. Okay, so we barely scratched the surface of Google's EDT128 announcements. In the next episode, we'll discuss the additions that they're making to Google Classroom. And wow, it's a lot. So make sure you're subscribed to the show to avoid missing those updates. And as always, if you've got thoughts on any of today's topics, hit me up, #EduDuctTape on Bluesky or speakpipe.com/EduDuctTape. I love hearing how you're using these updates in real classrooms. Thanks for tuning in and for all that you do for learners. Please make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss that next episode when we talk about the Google Classroom updates coming to Google in the 2025-2026 school year. He didn't read the articles. He didn't read the articles. The Gemini Gemini sidebar.